Welcome back to Storytime with Thisbe. Now, you've heard Yertle the Turtle, and you've heard one other story, Gertrude McFuzz, but you have one more story in this book, and it is called The Big Brag. So let's get ready. The rabbit felt mighty important that day. On top of the hill, in the sun where he lay, he felt so important up there on his hill that he started to brag at animals' will. And he boasted out loud as he threw out his chest, "Of all of the beasts of this world, I'm the best! On land and on sea, even up in the sky, no animal lives who is better than I." Uh-oh, he sounds like he's a friend of Yertle's. "What's that?" growled a voice that was terribly gruff. "Now why do you say such ridiculous stuff?" The rabbit looked down and he saw a big bear, the best of the beasts. He said to the bear, "So there." "You're not," snapped the rabbit. "I'm better than you." "Pooh," said the bear. "Pooh. Again I say pooh." "You all talk mighty big, Mr. Rabbit, that's true. But how can you prove it? Just what can you do?" Thought the rabbit. "Now, what can I do?" He thought and he thought, and he finally said, "Mr. Bear, do you see these two ears on my head? My ears are so keen and so sharp and so fine. No ears in this world can hear farther than mine." "Humph," the bear grunted. He looked at each ear. "You say they are good," said the bear with a sneer. "But how do I know just how far they can hear?" "I'll prove," said the rabbit. "My ears are the best. You sit there and watch me. I'll prove it by test." And he stiffened his ears till they both stood up high and pointed straight at the blue of the sky. He stretched his ears open as wide as he could. "Shh, I'm listening," he said as he stood. He listened so hard that he started to sweat, and the fur on his ears and his forehead got wet. For 7 long minutes he stood, then he stirred, and he said to the bear, "Do you know what I heard? You see that far mountain? It's 90 miles off. There's a fly on that mountain. I just heard him cough." Now the cough of a fly, sir, is quite hard to hear when he's 90 miles off, but I heard it quite clear. "For you see," bragged the rabbit, "it's perfectly true that my eyes are the best, so I'm better than you."
Well,
The bear, for a moment, just sulked as he sat, for he knew that his ears couldn't hear things like that. "This rabbit," he thought, "made a fool out of me. Now I've got to prove that I'm better than he." He said to the rabbit, "You hear pretty well. You can hear 90 miles, but how far can you smell?" "I'm the greatest of smellers," he bragged. "You see this nose? This nose on my face is the finest that grows. My nose can smell anything, both far and near. With my nose, I can smell twice as far as you can hear." "You can't," snapped the rabbit. "I can," growled the bear, and he stuck his big nose way up high in the air. He wiggled that nose, and he sniffed and he snuffed. He waggled that nose, and he whiffed and he waffed. Far more than 10 minutes he snapped and he snuffed, till he said to the rabbit, "I've smelled far enough." "All right," said the rabbit. "Come on now and tell. How exactly far is that smell that you smell?" "Oh, I'm smelling a very far smell," said the bear. "Away past that fly on that mountain out there. I'm smelling past many great mountains beyond. 600 miles more to the edge of a pond. And way, way out there by the pond you can't see is a very small farm. On a very small farm, a tree. On the tree is a branch, on the branch is a nest. In a very small nest there are 2 tiny eggs rest. 2 hummingbird eggs only half an inch long. But my nose," said the bear, "is so wonderfully strong. My nose is so good that I smell it without fail. That the egg on the left is a little bit stale. And that is a thing that no rabbit can do. So you see," the bear boasted, "I'm better than you. My smell is so keen that it can't just be the best. Is that really how that line ends? It is. "What's that?" called a voice from way down by his feet. The bear and the rabbit looked down at the sound, and they saw an old worm crawling out of the ground. "Now, you boys," said the worm, "you've been bragging a lot. You will think you're great, but I think that you're not. You're not half as good as a fellow like me. You can hear and you can smell, but how far can you see? Now, I'm here to prove you big boasting guys wrong. That your nose and your ears just aren't as good or as strong." And the little old worm cocked his head to one side, and he opened his eyes, and he opened them wide. And they say he looked far away with a strange sort of stare, as if they were burning 2 holes in the air. The eyes of that worm almost popped from its head. He stared half an hour till his eyelids got red. "That's enough," growled the bear. "Tell the rabbit and me, how far did you look and just what did you see?" "Well, boys," said the worm, "that look that I took was a look that looked further than you'll ever look. I looked across the ocean way out to Japan, for I can see further than anyone can. There's no one on earth who has eyesight this fine. There's no one on earth who has eyesight as fine as I've looked across Japan and even across China. I looked across Egypt and took a quick glance across the countries of Holland and France. Then I looked from England and also Brazil, but I didn't stop there. I looked much farther still." Suspicious. Mm-hmm. And I kept right on looking until I'd looked round the world and right back to this hill, and I saw on this hill, since my eyesight's so keen, the 2 biggest fools that I've ever seen. And the fools that I saw were none other than you, who seem to have nothing else better to do than sit here and argue who's better than who. Then the little old worm gave his head a small jerk, and he dived in his hole. Then he went back to work. The end. Thank you for joining me.